Welcome to Arlo Robotics Investor and Analyst Day. Now, roundtable discussion with industry experts.
In which markets and verticals will we see autonomous vehicle first, Johan?
This is a super interesting question, and if we by autonomous talk about fully autonomous things, I think that we connect back to both Matt and Gonan talked about that the driving thing here is the safety cases or how we analyze the safety scenarios for particular applications, and of course it's going to be easier to handle some of the simpler ones. And whenever those cases are limited or restricted in some way, that would point you to gated industry areas. It would point you to enclosed or confined areas where you would see simpler mechanisms to close your safety cases. And I think you would see applications in the private sector, for example, if you would look at low-speed transportation of goods, even though, as Matt pointed out, it's going to be complex environments. The lower speed is going to make it easier to handle the safety cases. Delivery pods, last-mile transportation of people is probably going to be interesting. But we're also going to see it in a lot of industry applications where you have like mining areas that could be restricted from people moving around. You can have better control over flows of everything that's going on. And those are the scenarios that I think we will see first. And there is also another interesting thing that I don't think is the obvious one, because I think we will see a change in the dynamics of things is, for example, the electrification of trucks or heavy machinery would trigger scenarios where you can't build as big vessels or vehicles as you did before. And that will force you to remove the drivers, and that will imply autonomy, not as for its own purpose, but because that's the only way to go electric for certain applications. And that's going to be a very fast driver, I would think.
Matt?
Yeah, very similar thoughts on that. I think, initially some niche routes for trucking and the last mile small business to business, very focused areas. Robotaxi, we talked about a little bit with that before, city by city, but very slowly as it takes a significant amount to launch in a new city. But I think that the thing that's going to be really the most impactful for people is going to be for personally owned vehicles operating on the interstates. Those are, it's a constrained environment. I think like Johan mentioned, it's a constrained environment. It's designed for where humans are already going fast, so we need to remove as many of the distractions as possible. I think we'll see interstates first, other arterials next, and then we'll start to see that, eventually, breaking into the more, the connector roads and so forth.
Ram, potential of imaging radar beyond automotive applications. I think Johan already mentioned some applications. Can you elaborate more about this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that beyond the private vehicles and the traditional market, we'll see the trucks, as mentioned, we'll see the new mobility, but then we're seeing a lot more of applications like delivery robot that is still related to automotive, but we see a really massive work in several companies around delivery pods and delivery robots. And then outside of these markets, like agriculture, as Johan mentioned, mining, heavy machinery, where they really need to operate those machines in a safe manner, and they need sensor that is operating in an environment that is not very friendly for LiDAR and for camera, like where there is a dirt or there is no light and a lot of dust. So those applications, and it goes beyond even those, like security, intelligent traffic systems. These are markets that are looking at the imaging radars and looking how to integrate this technology and open new applications using this technology.